ahead of Williams here at Suzuka to guarantee it.
Well, the news that Williams have got the pit ready, on the face of it, blows my theory. But on the other hand, and he's not come into the pits, he's carried on, we won't know, in fact, whether or not they were intending to stop once until we see just how long that pit stop is. And if I was right, they would be able to keep going until maybe lap 36, lap 37 before taking on fuel. But of course, tyre performance will have degraded by then, and they may feel that they're better off coming in, even though there's going to be some fuel left in that tank, topping it up with a fresh set of tyres. And if that's the case, it'll be an even shorter stop, maybe 8 seconds, something 8 or 9 seconds. So let's have a look. Looks like one of them, Coulthard or Hill, is going to be in within the next lap.
And Michael Schumacher is slowly catching Damon Hill. The gap on the previous lap was 10.5 seconds. It is now 9.9 seconds, riding with Schumacher now. There's the giant Ferris wheel which overlooks the Suzuka circuit. Went up in it yesterday, fantastic view. But I'd rather have Michael Schumacher's right now. He's just done a lap in 1 minute 42.9. That's the quickest of the race so far. Damon Hill's previous lap was 1 minute 43.5. So that's 0.6 of a second gained for Michael Schumacher, with Coulthard still third, Häkkinen still fourth, Herbert still fifth, Irvine still the last man in the points, 7 seconds ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is seventh. Parnis is 8th, Salo is 9th, and Parnis has been lapped, as of course has Salo. 10th position is Mark Blundell, both McLaren Mercedes still in the top 10. Schumacher. 9.9 seconds was the gap. Up to the chicane. Out into the last corner. Fastest man on the track.
And it's Coulthard coming into the pits. It's Coulthard. Now, Coulthard was 26 seconds ahead of Häkkinen. Coulthard was third. Häkkinen was fourth. Coulthard may well get out in front of Häkkinen and not even lose a place. But it's going to be close. Let's look how much fuel goes into that car. We're expecting round about 9 or 10 seconds, I think. Watching the clock go by. The tyres are already done. You can see that fuel takes the longest. A little bit sticky there. Well, 10, 11 seconds. Let's watch for Häkkinen.
I can see Mika Häkkinen, but I have no doubt that David Coulthard is going to exit the pit lane in third place, therefore still ahead of Mika Häkkinen as Pedro Diniz moves over. He must be wondering if he's in the same race as everybody else. People flying past him all the time. That is the 4th time that he's been lapped by Hill and Michael Schumacher. And Williams are getting ready again. So Coulthard in. And that was indeed a shorter stop than we saw from Schumacher, one of the shortest we've seen at this stage. So it does look as if Williams have opted to come in before the car effectively got right down to the limit on fuel, because the benefit of putting on a fresh set of tyres was greater than the benefit of continuing to run with a lighter car. Now, when Damon Hill makes his stop, we're going to expect to see him drop back. He's 9.7 seconds ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher is 7.6 ahead of Coulthard. That should mean that Coulthard will then end up being ahead of Hill, but of course that was, I beg your pardon, before the pit stop from David Coulthard. Well, Hill is probably going to be passed in the pit lane as he stops by Michael Schumacher. No, not quite, because you can see Hill for yourselves, and I wait for Michael Schumacher to go past, which he does now, to regain the lead. There he is on the right. Are we going to see Damon Hill exit? Yes, there he is. 10.5 seconds. The race rejoined on lap 36 with the implacable rivals who have been racing against each other all through 1994 to the World Championship finale in Adelaide last year, when Schumacher and Hill controversially collided, for the first time then, and they've done it since, and now Damon Hill is in second position.
And two much better pit stops from the Williams team, particularly that of Damon Hill. That was in fact a second faster, including the pit lane time, than that of David Coulthard. And Williams have come in for quite a bit of criticism in terms of their strategy and pit stop technique, and indeed Hill lost a significant amount of time at the last Grand Prix when a pit stop took 4 seconds too long when the refueler couldn't get the nozzle on. But in fact, Williams' team have said that part of the problem is that their drivers haven't been pulling up in a precise enough position, and that contributes to the problems of their pit stop technique. Now, we've seen in the last 2 days of practice, virtually every time a Williams car comes in, they've been pulling up to that pit stop position in order to practice being accurate, and you need to be accurate to within a foot, and that's not easy coming down the pit lane from maybe 120 miles an hour before the speed limit section, but they've practiced at it, and it really looks as if it's paid off. The drivers and the team doing a much better job. In fact, a very good job that looks to be as good as that of Benetton now.
And Michael Schumacher comes through to complete his 36th lap. Now, the gap on the previous lap was 7.8 seconds. It will be more than that now, of course. Schumacher goes into turn 1. There's the team boss, Flavio Briatore, silently hoping that he will be going home with the Benetton Constructors' Championship laurels as Schumacher took the championship last race. And out goes the 40 of Pedro Diniz, and Damon Hill is now 13.7 seconds behind Michael Schumacher on lap 37. 40 have had a very hard time of it this year, and that's Pedro Diniz's yet another retirement, in addition to the many he's already had this season. Getting a car up to Formula 1 reliability and speed from standstill. It was a Formula 3000 team last year. It takes a lot of doing. So Michael Schumacher on lap 37. Is he going to be able to maintain that gap ahead of Damon Hill? If he doesn't maintain that gap, he should be able to maintain a gap to take his 9th win of the season and equal Nigel Mansell's record. Then he would only have the Australian Grand Prix to win to beat Nigel's record. But there's still some distance to go in this race, and off goes Damon Hill. Damon Hill bouncing across the gravel at the Spoon Curve. That's where both he and David Coulthard went off yesterday, and that has effectively destroyed not only his chance of catching Michael Schumacher, which was a slim enough one in the first place, but of retaining his second place in the World Championship, because that was David Coulthard going ahead of him at the Spoon Curve, and he rejoins behind Mika Häkkinen and behind Mark Blundell, who's already been lapped. So that means that Coulthard will have gone up into second place, Häkkinen will have gone up into third place, Damon Hill goes down to fourth position. But is the Williams damaged in any way? After leaping across the bumps, Damon Hill turns in. The pit crew are ready to receive him for an inspection of the car at minimum. It looks to me as though the front wing is all right, the rear wing is all right. They're going to put a new set of tyres on anyway, I think. And this is another bitter, bitter blow for Damon Hill.
It is indeed. I'm afraid it's also another mistake from Damon Hill. I'm afraid we really just have seen too many from someone who is really trying to challenge for a world championship. Now let's see what's going on. It looks like there's a problem with the nose cone. They are undoing the nose of that Williams, and that's about a 40-second job. We've got the stopwatch going. They need to lift the car up to try and undo the screws that hold it. And Hill keeping the engine running, just not revving it too much. You can see the other nose cone being readied. These are designed to be put on quickly because, of course, the front wings are vulnerable on these cars. On go another set of tyres, the front wing, checking it, and off he goes. Well, it was a quick stop, but I'm afraid Hill is now right out of contention. And it really is just a great shame to see Damon, who we know can drive quickly, just make too many mistakes, I'm afraid, under pressure. Now, here's what happened. Here's the replay. He's coming in down 120 miles an hour. He gets wide, simply just drifts wide. The curb launches the car in the air. He's bouncing across the gravel trap, frankly trying to keep some power on at this stage to try and get sanctuary in the grass along the far side. That is exactly, in fact, what his teammate David Coulthard did on the Saturday morning practice session. It's Van Aert. Blundell's done more or less the same thing, and it's the same corner. Clearly a tricky part. I suppose it's, I'll tell you what, actually, I do believe that the 40 car that went off there, or the 40 car we saw stationary, was round about that. I just wonder if we're being too harsh here, and if some oil has been dropped by that 40 before it pulled off. And so I'm pretty sure the 40 pulled off at that second Spoon corner. We think it did. I think we ought to take back those words of criticism on Damon Hill there, certainly until we get some more information or some more thoughts on that. But to have two drivers off at the same corner within 2 laps seems too much of a coincidence.
I sincerely hope you're right, Jonathan, because it's an open secret that off there goes Mark Blundell, and that is more or less the same point that he went off yesterday afternoon at about 160 miles an hour and ended up backwards in the tyre wall to literally knock the stuffing out of him. But I was saying it's been an open secret here that both Patrick Head and Frank Williams have been saying harsh things to Damon Hill, and here he is down in 5th place for just 2 World Championship points. And now David Coulthard has gained 3 World Championship points on Hill. In fact, he has gained 4 World Championship points on Damon, and that would mean to say that when they go to Adelaide, if they stay in the positions they're in now, there would be only 6 World Championship points between them for 2nd place. Meantime, here is the man who has got 1st place in the World Championship beyond a shadow of doubt. He's already won it. Michael Schumacher. We're on lap 40. He leads David Coulthard by half a minute, as near as makes no difference. Mika Hakkinen is 4.4 seconds behind David Coulthard and lapping at almost exactly the same speed. Johnny Herbert is now clinching the Constructors' Championship for Benetton because he is in 4th position, Hill 5th, Frentzen 6th. News from Tony Jardine in the pit lane.
Yeah, I've just been talking to a couple of the Benetton mechanics, and they said that Michael Schumacher has just radioed in that it is wet on the other side of the track. So I don't know whether that has affected the 2 drivers that went off at Spoon Curve.
Well, it could well have done. Wet on the other side of the track, but without wishing to sound harsh, and it's easy to criticise when you're not in the driving seat. It's the same for everybody.
No, I agree entirely, and I think that it looks as if that's the report. I'm sure it's accurate that water was the significant factor, not potentially oil from a 40 car. That's exactly where it happened, the corner we're looking at now. But it's exactly the same for everybody. You can see the droplets coming, and that's one of the Sauber cars coming in. It's Wendlinger in for his 2nd stop, and thinking of Sauber, actually Carl Wendlinger, he's coming back for this race and for the next race at Adelaide, and that was after Bouillon has been dropped from the team, and Wendlinger, the Sauber team, have been very loyal to Wendlinger, and of course he had that dreadful accident at Monte Carlo last year when he was comatose for 19 days. And David Coulthard's going off. This looks like rain is indeed, it's the same place there, that rain is indeed falling at the back of the circuit. Now this is when it's going to be so desperately important to monitor the weather, to read the track conditions, to feel how much grip you've got. We were talking about it earlier on when they're on slick tyres, and it started to rain here as well. I think we may be about to see, and David Coulthard gets very out of shape there. Now that's where Mark Blundell went off, and Blundell went off a lot harder than that, but it looks as if, to me, some of the gravel came out from the side pod that was being contained by that Williams car, and as he braked for the corner it shot back and it got underneath the wheels, and that precipitated David Coulthard going off. I suspect we may well see a replay of that, but Frank Williams distinctly unimpressed. And I'm afraid the fact is that it's generally reckoned that the Williams car is the fastest car of the year. Its reliability is not bad, it hasn't been the best, but they have not been winning sufficient races, and I'm afraid that does point the finger at the drivers. Good though they may be, they are not of a level, I believe, of Schumacher and John Alesi and probably Mika Hakkinen, quite frankly.
Oh, well, there it is, you see. Off goes the Sauber of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He went off this morning, now he's gone off this afternoon. He's in 6th position. Is he in 6th position? Because that's Mika's. No, it wasn't. It was, it was Schumacher going past. And of course, Schumacher, having told his pit it's wet on the other side, will almost be certainly, and you can see that, Damon Hill's problems are compounded by the fact that obviously after he put on that new nose cone, maybe he forgot to press the speed limiter button, and he's now coming in for another pit stop, another 10 seconds, plus the time that it takes to slow down and then get into the pits. What a dreadful race for Damon and for Williams, with Coulthard out of the contention. The only consolation for Hill will be that at least he's not going to lose his second place in the World Championship to Coulthard.
Indeed. Now we saw the Williams mechanics running down to go to the end of the pit lane to be there when Hill comes in for his time penalty, spending 10 seconds at rest. And it is indeed my guess that, as happened in Belgium when Hill got a pit lane speeding penalty, he did that because he forgot to push the button, quite frankly. The car has the equipment and he forgot to push the button. That's probably the most likely cause of it here. Certainly a degree of mitigation and all the turmoil, no doubt, going through Hill's mind at that pit stop. He was the first person to come to grief at that slippery section of the track, and this is that point there now, and he's done it again. This is unbelievable. He's done it again,
and this time he is out of the race. Well, words fail me. Both Williams out at the same point. First of all, Hill goes off, then Coulthard, then Hill again.
And it looks like Eddie Irvine spun at that point too. There's no doubt the rain is coming down at that far side of the circuit. Certainly that would explain Irvine and Coulthard. You can see the rather gleeful face there from Flavio Briatore. I'm afraid he's looking at a driver whose ability does not match that of Michael Schumacher, and he knows it.
And he knows too that Benetton have won the 1995 Constructors' Championship, the double crown, the World Championship for Michael Schumacher. And as a distraught, disconsolate Damon Hill trudges off the track, Michael Schumacher races on to what now seems like an absolutely certain 9th win in this, the 16th race of 1995, to equal Nigel Mansell's 1992 record. It hasn't happened yet, but I think the only thing that can stop it is something going wrong with his Benetton or his Renault engine, both of which are very unlikely to fail him. And of course his pits will have been telling him that people are going off on the Spoon Curve, but since he told them first of all anyway that there was a problem there, I have absolutely no doubt that he will be watching things very carefully indeed. Now, quick word from Tony Jardine in the Benetton pit.
I just think that it's more important for the Benetton guys here to win the World Constructors' Championship than the World Drivers' Championship. They've been going potty congratulating each other, but they deserve it after such a wonderful year, because after all, with their pit work, their guys wouldn't be where they are, and they're still slapping each other on the back. They do deserve it, but great celebrations here in the Benetton pit, and I wish they'd stop slapping my equipment.
And you can tell them, Tony Jardine, as we watch this replay of the Williams Renault of Damon Hill spinning off and out of the race, that not only is Michael Schumacher in the lead, we're with Hill now on a replay on car. You can see that that gravel trap getting closer and closer. The rear wheels go in and he stops.
Yes, and watch for the Jordan here. Oh, we didn't quite see it long enough, but the face of Frank Williams. The sigh, the resigned sigh, says it all, I'm afraid.
David Coulthard, replay. This is him going off. Same place.
And there, in fact, no, that's at the end. That's the 130R, I do believe. And we could see there that the gravel did indeed come out of the side pods. Let's look at it again. Coulthard has got out of his first bit of trouble. He brakes. Away comes all of that gravel. He collected at the previous corner. I have to say that was rather bad luck to actually go off at this corner for David Coulthard. I don't really think he could have anticipated just how dramatic the effect of that gravel was going to be, but it was the secondary consequence of an initial mistake. It has to be said, a mistake from Coulthard. And really, you know, these gravel traps are designed so that they should actually retain the car in the first instance. One really shouldn't be able to drive out of them.
Compounded misery for the Williams team, compounded delight for the Benetton team, because the mechanics will now, in the Benetton area, not only be celebrating the fact that Michael Schumacher looks a certain winner of the Japanese Grand Prix, but his teammate Johnny Herbert, who won the British Grand Prix, who won the Italian Grand Prix, and who so much needs a good finish here to bolster his chances of getting into the Sauber or even the Tyrrell team next year, is third in Japan, a long way behind Mika Hakkinen. There he is, who is in second place, hopefully for his second place of 1995. Schumacher, Hakkinen, Herbert. Irvine is fourth. Parnis is fifth for Ligier. And Mika Salo is in the points in Japan for Tyrrell.
But this is a fantastic drive from Mika Hakkinen. His qualifying form was superb. Qualifying third back after that appendectomy was great, particularly as the McLaren that car really has been down in the doldrums when you think that they qualified 10th and 11th and were well out of the picture at the last Grand Prix when Blundell and Magnussen were driving. But Hakkinen has been quick. He's also coped with a car that's known to be difficult in wet conditions, with wet conditions to start with and then the damp conditions later on. He's not made a mistake. He's kept charging hard. He really is superb. And I must say, these changing weather conditions that we've seen with those showers that have caught so many out really would have been the ideal environment for Jean Alesi had he been out there to continue to show his ability. Still see quite a lot of water around, in fact. You haven't got to get far offline. When you're obviously on a damp part of the track, you can see Hakkinen keeping right to the outside. You can also see the lighter colour of the tarmac, and that is where the track is dry. And it definitely is dry pretty much on that line, but you only need to be 2 or 3 feet away either side, and you're onto the damp, and that can mean instant spins.
Watch Michael Schumacher. 23 cars and drivers started this race. There are 12 left now that Damon Hill has retired. Damon Hill is out, David Coulthard is out, Montemini is out in the Pacific. Both the Ferraris of Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger have retired. The other Pacific of Bertrand Gachot has retired. Roberto Moreno is out. Rubens Barrichello has long since retired. Ukyo Katayama failed to finish the Grand Prix that means most of all to him, his home race in Japan. And Gianni Morbidelli was the first to disappear from the lap charts right at the beginning of the race.
We're looking at Eddie Irvine, and hasn't he done a great job here this afternoon? He qualified superbly in 7th place, but then he fought off literal physical assault. First of all from his teammate Barrichello and then from Frentzen. And in fact, what was interesting is that in the pits, to have their respective damage repaired, both Frentzen and Irvine were stationary for the same amount of time, and that was around about 15 seconds, 20 seconds, something of that order. But Irvine has kept going. He really is a much more confident driver, much more determined driver ever, now that he's secured that Ferrari seat for next year. It's going to be very interesting to see whether or not Michael Schumacher, we're looking at him now, is going to have a greater threat from Eddie Irvine as a teammate at Ferrari than he has done at Benetton when he's had Johnny Herbert as a teammate. And I think Irvine is going to be far better equipped with his character. He really is not fazed by anybody. And in fact, it was at this race 2 years ago when Irvine had the temerity to re-overtake Ayrton Senna after Senna lapped him in a race, and Senna was so wound up afterwards by the fact that Irvine really didn't respect the Grand Prix protocol that Senna ended up allegedly hitting him. So Irvine never has been one to get fazed by anybody, and I don't see it happening next year at Ferrari either. The question is just how quick can he be in the face of this man who is in a class of his own. It's quite simple. Whether it's in qualifying, whether it's in strategy, whether it's in racecraft, overtaking the back markers, coping with changing weather conditions, whatever you throw at Michael Schumacher, he copes with it with more aplomb than anybody else. It really is quite simple. And what a tremendous shame that we have not been able to see Schumacher vie with the great Ayrton Senna to see who would come out on top of those two, because those two, to my mind, really are, or were, with late Ayrton Senna, quite superb, a class above anybody else that they're currently racing with.
Seven laps to go for Michael Schumacher as he crosses the line, and he sees in front of him at the end of the straight Eddie Irvine in 4th position, who he will catch and lap if he so desires. He doesn't have to, of course, because he's 25 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen. So the two Ferrari teammates of 1996, Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine, are in the top 4 in respectively their Benetton and Jordan Peugeot cars. It looks as though Mika Hakkinen and McLaren and Mercedes, jointly working together as they have been all through the season in the most disappointing circumstances, are finally getting things right. Mika Hakkinen had a special engine built by Ilmor for Mercedes-Benz in the qualifying sessions, and he was well up on the grid as a result of that, because he started in 3rd position. He's got a race engine in here, but it's fast, reliable. Mika, who, as you heard earlier on, is just recovering from an appendix operation, took out his own stitches here on Thursday, believe it or not. and is showing no ill effects from it at all. You can see the track is now virtually totally dry. There are some damp patches, but on the racing line it really is dry. They're on slick tyres, they're on lap 47, it's a 53 lap race, so there's not many laps to go now to the end of the 1995 Japanese Grand Prix, the second race in succession in Japan, because we had Aida last weekend, also won by Michael Schumacher, who now leads the man you're looking at, Mika Häkkinen from Finland, in his Häkkinen's 63rd Grand Prix by just under 25 seconds. And that is Olivier Panis in the points for Ligier Mugen. It's the only Ligier in the race, as his teammate Aguri Suzuki will be watching this race from hospital after his crash yesterday. A broken rib, it looks a lot worse than that at the time, but he'll be out of hospital the day after tomorrow. And Panis needs these points to help his reputation. He's had one or two poor finishes this year, and there have been rumours that he's going to lose his drive for Ligier next year. Well, this will help him retain it.
It will indeed, and you could see there how Panis was carefully keeping to that dry line, the lighter grey coloured line, knowing that just to go across onto the dark side, particularly when cornering or braking, could spell disaster. But Martin Brundle must be looking on with this. We know he's on the pit wall down in the Ligier team. He's going to be moving to the Jordan team for next year, but thinking, well, if Panis can do that, if Panis can be fifth, I could have been fourth. And he's probably right, because Brundle has generally outperformed Panis this year, and was reluctantly accepting of the situation that because of sponsor pressures, Aguri Suzuki was destined to drive in Aida, here at Suzuka, and then originally the following race in Adelaide. But I think after a relatively lacklustre performance at the previous Grand Prix at Aida, Suzuki was going to announce his retirement yesterday afternoon from Formula One racing, but sadly, very sadly for Suzuki, he had that big accident and ended up being hospitalised at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, recovering from that rather than announcing his retirement to a grateful press call. So anyway, I'm sure, as we've heard, he is still watching that race carefully and seeing his teammate do so well here.
Well, now let's look outside the top six for a moment, because Mark Blundell, who started 23rd after that terrific crash yesterday, is now 7th. He's only 10 seconds behind Mika Salo, and he's lapping faster than the Finn. We're with Mika Häkkinen now, 23 seconds behind Schumacher.
I think we can also look outside the commentary box window here, because the rain, to my mind, is just starting to fall again lightly. And it's these kind of changing conditions. The drivers are going to be seeing a few spots of rain on their visor. Whether it'll just be a very brief flurry, it'll go away, and there I think could be a casualty of it. Now that's coming out of the pit chicane there. We may see a replay. It looks like, yes, it is Lamy in one of the Minardi cars. It may be entirely coincidental, and that's going to do his tyre grip no good at all, but probably better than trying to engage reverse and doing a three-point turn, because whilst these cars are obliged to have reverse gears, in reality they're not designed to work for more than a scrutineering check in the pit lane, or certainly they don't end up working for much more than that before braking. So we'll keep an eye on that weather and to see whether or not this rain does build up.
There is Mika Salo, is the leader of these two cars here. The Finnish driver, he is in 6th position for Tyrrell. The Tyrrell team only have 2 points in the Constructors' Championship. That's a replay of Lamy going off in the Minardi Ford. He was in 9th position. And Salo turns into the spoon curve. We're on lap 49. That's Frentzen behind him, who is in 8th position. So Frentzen is vying to get into the points. The order on lap 50 out of 53, Schumacher leads. Here we are with Eddie Irvine, who is in 4th position, 21 seconds behind Johnny Herbert, who is 3rd. Häkkinen is 2nd, Schumacher leads. Behind Irvine, who we are riding with now, round turn 6 up into turn 7. As we look at Michael Schumacher gaining on him soon, probably to lap the Jordan, if, as I said earlier, he wants to do so. There's absolutely no need for him to. And Salo is 6th, Blundell is 7th, and gaining very quickly indeed, because Salo's last lap was 1:47, Blundell's lap was 1:45, and he's now only 8 seconds behind. it's conceivable that Mark Blundell will finish in the points, and since we think that Jan Magnussen, who drove so well at AIDA last weekend, will be in the McLaren in Adelaide, Australia, it would be a wonderful finish for Mark Blundell's career with McLaren this year.
Yes, it would indeed. Absolutely fantastic if Blundell can take that 6th place. A, getting into the top 6, and B, of course, doing it from the very back of the grid, and C, doing it after having such a big impact in yesterday's qualifying sessions. But he's slowly picking up, and I think the situation at McLaren will be, and we've actually got Tony Jardine down in the pits with David Coulthard, we've just heard.
David, a very, very sad sight seeing you go off there. What exactly happened?
Well, it's just simply we had a little bit of rain round the back of the circuit. And I didn't want to lose any time at all, so I kept pushing, and it was quite wet on that corner, and I slid off. I came back on the circuit, and then the problem was when I got to the fast corner, when I dabbed the brakes, all the gravel came out of my side pods, and I spun in my own gravel, so a disappointing way to end the weekend, especially after the guys did a brilliant job in the pits to get me out in front of Mika.
Now you're clutching your neck here. Have you hurt yourself at all?
I just went in sideways, so I've cracked my neck a little bit, but it'll be fine.
So disappointing, obviously, but just looking forward to the last race in Australia now.
Yeah, very disappointed to go off here because it's been a hard weekend, and 2nd place would have been a good result. But now, obviously, we've just got Australia to look forward to, and it would be nice to leave Williams with a win.
Thank you, David.
Well, you look at Michael Schumacher on his 51st lap, just 2 more after this one. And good news for Mark Blundell and all his many fans all over the world. I've just heard that Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, has stated that Blundell will be driving in Australia and not the young Danish driver Jan Magnussen.
That really is fantastic news. I'm really very pleased indeed with that. You know, the psychology of racing is such an important thing, and Mark Blundell had things very difficult when Hakkinen came back with such explosive form on the Friday. He's recovered beautifully here this afternoon. He's currently lapping as fast as Mika Hakkinen. He's now within 4.5 seconds of Mika Salo. He's driving an absolutely storming race, and it looks like he's going to be right on the tail of Salo in the last lap. Whether he can get by, I think it's probably unlikely, but I think Mark has done enough here this afternoon to prove that he really does deserve to have that final race with McLaren in Adelaide. And at the moment, he's trying hard to secure one of 2 drives available. One is with Tyrrell, and the other is with the Sauber team.
With Eddie Irvine, the reason we're with Eddie Irvine in 4th place is that right behind him is race leader Michael Schumacher on his penultimate lap. Just this lap, the 52nd, and next lap, the 53rd to go to his 9th win, an incredible record of 1995. Mika Hakkinen there is now still some 23 seconds behind the race leader, but looking good for his second place of the year. A tremendous encouragement for Ron Dennis there, for Norbert Haug of Mercedes-Benz, and everybody in the McLaren organisation at Woking. But Schumacher has been the man here, just as he was at AIDA with a magnificent drive last weekend, and just frankly as he has been at so many races this year, particularly the Grand Prix of Europe at the Nürburgring, that storming drive of his, the Belgian Grand Prix where he started 16th on the grid and came through to win, his own German Grand Prix which he won at Hockenheim, and so it goes on. The 9th win coming up. There's just 1 lap to go at the end of this one. There he is behind Eddie Irvine.
Yes, it's all been said so many times before now. Schumacher is in a class of his own, and he's certainly proved here that winning the World Championship, or clinching the World Championship as he did at the previous race, has not curtailed his thirst for success 1 degree whatsoever. Pole position, the first time since Canada, gone on to score this dominating win. It may not have been had Jean Alesi kept up that remarkable performance, and that was stopped when his engine had some kind of major problem in the early part of the race. So great performance from Jean Alesi. But 2nd place, Mika Hakkinen. The McLaren team are going to be absolutely ecstatic. A brilliant drive from Mika Hakkinen, a great performance from McLaren. Benetton team with Johnny Herbert in 3rd place though have justifiably collected the Constructors' Championship. Great jubilation for them, and I'm afraid the Williams team may have been the team that should have won it. I think they had the best car here, and I think Benetton probably realised that. But I'm afraid the truth of the matter is that sadly this year the drivers just have not matched up to the performance of the car, and we saw that here today with mistakes from both Damon Hill and David Coulthard. I'm sure that in the future they can both put in the levels of performance that they need to justify those kind of drives, but it hasn't happened today.
Schumacher not very far to the checkered flag now, and if Johnny Herbert stays in that third position which he's in now, it will take him back past Jean Alesi in the Drivers' Championship to 4th place. But most importantly for Benetton, and you've seen the mechanics coming out of the garage up to the pit lane. Aida was great for them when Michael Schumacher won his 8th race and clinched the Drivers' World Championship. But Suzuka, the following Sunday, here today, is going to be even greater, because this will be the first Constructors' Championship for Benetton. We've seen McLaren win it so many times. We have seen Williams win it so many times. Michael Schumacher is exiting the chicane. Flavio Briatore is ready to receive the Benetton, and Michael Schumacher wins in Japan to equal Nigel Mansell's all-time record of 9 wins in one season, to give Benetton the Constructors' Championship. And he said yesterday that that was his goal and he wasn't going to let up. He was going to go on to give his team the success they deserved, and he's done it. And Mika Häkkinen has finished in 2nd place, less than 20 seconds behind Michael Schumacher there. We just wait now for Johnny Herbert, who is a long way behind Häkkinen, 63 seconds on the previous lap, to make it a wonderful, wonderful day for Benetton. 1st and 3rd, 14 points in the Constructors' Championship. They only needed to go to Adelaide with a 16-point advantage over Williams, and now they're going to have much, much more than that. They're going to have a 35-point advantage over Williams, having won the championship. So, to reprise, Japan, Suzuka sees victory for Schumacher. There is Johnny Herbert, almost home, into the chicane. Well, he really can roll across the line now and take that 3rd place to add to his 2 wins in Britain and Italy and his 2nd place in Spain. He's going to be on the podium again, and look at them, delighted. And Mika Salo is going to take that 6th position by just at 1.8 seconds from Mark Blundell. Schumacher wins, Häkkinen 2nd, Herbert 3rd, Eddie Irvine 4th, Parnis lapped but in 5th position, 6th Mika Salo, and Blundell 7th, Frentzen 8th, Luca Badoa 9th, Carl Wendlinger finishes 10th, but 2 laps down, and joy unbridled at Benetton. Well, Jonathan, what more, if anything, can we add to what we've said about Michael Schumacher? Last year he won the championship in very contentious circumstances, with a lot of criticism and allegations about the Benetton team, which left an unpleasant taste in his mouth. He won the championship with 12 races from the 16, because he was excluded for one reason or another from 4 of them. But he won the championship, admittedly only by a small amount from Damon Hill, but first is first. But there's been absolutely no doubt about it this year. He's crushed the opposition, and he takes the coveted #1 to Ferrari with him next year.
Yes, I must say, I really rather doubted certainly the allegations, or benefit of the allegations, of any rule infringements from Benetton last year. I didn't think they really had occurred, and Schumacher's performances this year have proven that there's been absolutely no degree of comment at all about anything untoward with Benetton this year, and I think there's no doubt it's down to all their success. It's down to superb driving from that man, unrivaled driving, great teamwork, great pit work. As we've said, not necessarily the best car, but Schumacher with the team have made the best of the package and won, of course, not just the Drivers but the Constructors' Championship too. And I think the big question now is what's going to happen next year. We know the situation for this year. Next year Schumacher will be with Ferrari. Now, Ferrari have not been truly race-winning competitive for a very long time, well over a decade. But after initially, I must admit, I thought Schumacher had gone there purely for the money, and a lot of it, it has to be said, $25 million. I really think that he's got a chance of winning there next year too. The way that this chap can help develop the team, the bonding that he can get with the principal, and just look at that relationship there with Flavio Briatore. Benetton taking Schumacher on a long time ago, back in the end of 1991 from the Jordan team. And that really is the end of an era, I'm afraid, we're looking at now. We've got one more race of seeing Schumacher in a Benetton when he's going to be into a Ferrari alongside Eddie Irvine. And the question is, who's going to rival them next year?
I always think of Jack Hulbert when I look at Michael Schumacher. That'll mean something to our older viewers. He looks very much like him. And, well, that's his 19th win. Italian Flavio Briatore proudly waves the Union Jack. It is, after all, a British team. The Benettons are constructed at Enstone, and as I have also said before, the fact that this is not Schumacher's 19th victory has not diminished his enthusiasm one iota. He looks just as pleased to have won here in Japan this weekend as he was last weekend, and every other victory. And there is the contrast. Damon Hill, well, there's really nothing to say, I think.
No, I do feel very, very sorry for Damon Hill, I must say. There is nothing more gutting than knowing that one has not put in the performance expected of one. I'm afraid that is a situation with Damon. We know he's tried his very best. Of that, there is no doubt whatsoever. But sadly, his best this year has not been good enough. Not good enough to cope with that man. And I fear not good enough to cope with a number of drivers. I don't think that Hakkinen, I think that Hakkinen and a Lacey, to mention two, would have done a better job, I'm afraid, with that car. And let's just hope over the winter that Damon can regroup, and he will need a good result in Adelaide, really, to end the note with a degree of optimism, to help buoy him up over the winter, to help come back next year. But for Schumacher, this is not just his 19th win, it's his 9th win this season. And that, by my recollection, matches him with Nigel Mansell, who I think has the record for a year of 9 wins in a season. And if he goes on to take a 10th one, and as he may well do at Adelaide, that will give him, with 10 wins, the greatest number of Grand Prix victories for any driver in one season.
As Michael Schumacher mounts the podium for the 9th time on the top step this year. Now the anthem for the winning constructor, Benetton. Mika Hakkinen on the left, second place. Michael Schumacher there, the winner, and his teammate Johnny Herbert, the right. Mr. Hisashi Hieda, who is the president of Fuji Television, presents that superb trophy to Schumacher, and now the winning constructors trophy. The second place driver, Mika Hakkinen, gets his trophy from Mr. Takashi Matsuda, who is the president of Suzuka Circuit Land. That's the track that this wonderful race has been held on. And to Johnny Herbert, the trophy goes from Mr. Kunio Nihira, who is the vice president of the Japanese Automobile Federation.
Michael, congratulations. You have now achieved your aim of winning the World Championship and Benetton's first Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, that's a fantastic feeling. Now I really can feel more than happy. I mean, happy is certainly not the word for my feelings at the moment, because the team really earned this championship, because they have been last year and this year the really best team in the paddock, and now we fulfilled our promises to go for the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championship. By the way, now we equal as well Nigel Mansell's record, and now we go in Australia for a new one.
You had pole position and fastest lap. The only serious challenge during the race seemed to come from Jean Alesi. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, I was totally aware of this, because my mirror was full of a red car at certain times, and it was close at certain stages, but fortunately I was able to maintain then after a gap. He was quite quick at the beginning stage on dry tyres, where I needed a couple of laps to get into the circuit and get the rhythm, and after I got this I was able to pull a little gap to him.
Mika, your second place of the season, but this time it seemed to be much more convincing than at Monza.
Absolutely. It was great. Absolutely great from start to finish. And start was really good. Didn't have any problems in the start. Didn't lost any places. Unfortunately, I didn't gain anything either, but I kept my place. And I was able to keep my speed basically with Michael and with Sean. And also Hill, who was behind me, wasn't able to overtake me. It was good. I was able to all the time keep this distance similar. And the whole race went really, really nice all the way from start to finish.
Johnny, a good solid race. What was your strategy before the race?
Well, the strategy was obviously try and get a good start. The conditions were obviously going to change, so it was trying to be in the right position at the right time, and we seemed to have some good pit stops as well, which obviously helped a lot. And you know, the result was very good, and especially for Benetton, who've done a fantastic job along with Renault.
The newly crowned world champion with his 9th victory of the season, equalling Nigel Mansell's winning total, and every reason to anticipate that Schumacher will break that record at the final round at Adelaide in a fortnight's time. Great encouragement for McLaren and Mika Hakkinen, another second place, less than 20 seconds behind. All the signs that McLaren are now making significant progress once again. And Johnny Herbert on the podium as well for the 4th time this season. And Johnny moving up into 4th position in the championship, 4 points behind David Coulthard. But the runners-up spot is now decided, with both Damon Hill and Coulthard going out today. The gap remains at 10 points with just that one race remaining, and that means that Damon can't be overhauled by Coulthard for second place in the championship. But that is small consolation for Damon on another desperate day for the Williams team. They've had to concede the Constructors' title to Benetton, who are champions for the very first time by virtue of Schumacher's victory today, as well as Johnny Herbert's 3rd position. Celebrations not only in the Benetton pit in Japan, but also around the Benetton factory in Enstone in Oxfordshire. They're the champion Constructors. We'll have what is now our usual live early morning coverage of the final round of the championship, the Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide, in a fortnight's time, as the amazing Michael Schumacher goes for a record-breaking 10th Grand Prix victory of the season. Bye for now.
Welcome to BBC Two in the afternoons.
We'll be serving up a full menu.
Ready?
With the dish of the day, every day.
Steady.
A choice of main course, Esther, or Oprah.
Cook!
Ready, steady, cook!
And for afters...
Lot 1 Monday, Lot 2 Tuesday, Lot 3 Friday. That's going, gone.
A full menu weekdays from Monday on BBC Two.
the ground. Turn on your TV. Wacky, wonky, fun to watch. Children's BBC.
Good morning and welcome to Children's BBC, coming live from the Birmingham NEC at the Big Bash. We've got a celebrity in the box coming up. Here's your first clue. It's a Welsh singing grandmother. All that and these in a few moments' time. It'll be time for Travel Bug. Following that, more classic classroom drama with Grange Hill. After that, more adventures with a little vampire. And at 11:15, Animals That See in the Dark with Terry Nutkins and Growing Up Wild. All that, and I believe my holiday romance Carlos is here as well, which is really good news.
So many lovely
Carlos!
Lovely lady!
Carlos!
You're so lovely! Oh, lovely lady!
Carlos!
Lovely.
What are you doing? You're supposed to be my fiancé!
Oh, Josie, in my country's tradition for me to have many wives, Josie.
All right then, but why are you so late?
Oh, my passion wagon. It's been stolen, Josie.
Your car's been stolen.
Yes, Josie, I am carless.
Oh,
Josie,
no!
lend me yours. Lend me
All
yours,
right then, what do you think, kids? Should I give him my car?
Let me have it, Josie. Oh,
no.
Please, they are the keys to my heart.
Okay, here they go.
Thank you, Josie. Oh, Josie, when I'm with you, you are like a great big lump of dough.
I'm like a lump of dough? What do you
I
mean,
need you,
Carlos?
Josie.
All right then.
Where shall I go?
Go to Coventry, Carlos, for saying I'm like a lump of dough. He's on his travels and we're going on our travels now. We are going with Paul Hendy to the travel bag.
Oh, welcome along to the game show that puts the pace into peseta and makes its mark on the franc. Yes, it's Travel Bug. Now, we always start off here at the airport in Manchester, but very shortly, two of our contestants will be choosing one of three destinations which we'll all be jetting off to this very day. So, this week, will it be Germany, France, or Holland? Let's find out as we meet the teams who are about to play Travel Bug. Hello, teams.
Hello, Paul.
Hello, Blues. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Matthew. And I'm Alex.
And what are you going to call your team?
The Blues Brothers.
Why the Blues Brothers?
We go to the Blue Coat School and we're blooming brilliant.
Of course you're brilliant. That's why you're on this show. Hello, Reds. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Katie. And I'm Tilly.
And what are you going to call your team?
The Drama Queens.
The Drama Queens. Why the Drama Queens?
Because we like to be in the spotlight.
Oh, don't we all, lovey? Don't we all? OK, stand by your bags because it's time to play check-in. What they have to do is take a piece of luggage, run with it and place it at the check-in desk that they think is the correct answer. But remember, speed is very important because if it comes to a tiebreaker, the fastest team will win this round. Let's check in. Question number 1. In which country would you expect to purchase the tasty snack of raw herring from street vendors? OK? Is it Germany, France, or Holland? Go! Quick as you can. Quick. They both said Holland, and they're absolutely right. So now, to remove the baggage, thank you very much, Mr. Glitz, Mr. Pizzazz, Mr. Bright Lights himself, it's Joe. Thank you very much, Joe. Question number 2. Which country is Europe's leading Olympic medal winner of both summer and winter games? Ready, go! Quick as you can. Oh, they're pretty sharp this week. They both said Germany, and they're both absolutely right. Question number 3. In which present-day country was Ludwig van Beethoven born? Ready, go! Quick as you can. They both said Germany, and they're both absolutely right. Well done. Are you ready for the final question? Which country does Eric Cantona come from? Wait for it. Ready, go! They're so eager, they're so keen, yes! Quick. Ah, they both said France, and of course, they're both absolutely right. Well done. So, to find out who's going to choose which location we're going to, let's get the lowdown on the luggage. And look at this, with 4 items of luggage and a score of 40, the Blues Brothers, and also with 4 items of luggage and a score of 40, the Drama Queen. So, oh, drama upon drama, it's a tie-break. Let's see which team were quicker. And I can tell you after that the blue team, the Blues Brothers, were the quickest. Well done. So that means you get an extra 10, and you also get to choose this week's destination. So, will it be Germany, France, or Holland? What do you think, guys?
Germany.
Germany. Let's have a look at the destination board. Oh, listen to this. It says, don your lederhosen. We're in for a thigh-slapping, rip-roaring, papa time. We're off to Munich. Is that okay?
Yeah.
What about the Drama Queens? You're not going to get all dramatic on us, are you? Well, let me tell you that the travel bug plane is now boarding, so grab your luggage. We're off to Munich.
Water more, kids.
All right, guys?
Yes.
Enjoying the flight?
Yeah.
Is Captain Colin a good pilot?
Yeah.
Am I a good co-pilot?
Yeah.
You don't seem too sure about that. Welcome in Munchen, welcome to Munich. Well, whilst the teams are unpacking their bags and writing their postcards home, let's see what they've got to get up to in this week's Location Challenge. Both teams have to write down in German how many female figures there are on this maypole. There are 7, which in German is sieben. They also have to buy a raddy. What's a raddy? It's a Bavarian radish, and there's bonus points for the biggest. In this challenge, they have to ask someone to take a photograph of them standing in front of Bavaria's most famous comedian. And we all know how Bavaria's noted for its comedy. His name's Carl Valentin, and he was a Ben Elton of his day. Sort of. And it's all a big race to find the only person here who knows the answer to this question. What do you call a German sausage seller with sauerkraut in his ear?
Anything you like, it won't hear you.
Ba-dum! Carl Valentine, eat your heart out. Oh, shh, here come the teams. Hi, teams.
Hi, Paul.
Welcome to Germany. Let me hear you say Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
It's time for Location Challenge. Here are your challenges. Remember, you've got your facts packs and your maps to help you. Quick update on the scores. Drama Queens, you've got 40. Blues Brothers are on a mission with 50, so it's very close. Are you ready? Go!
Okay, quick. Right, number 1. Purchase the biggest radar you can find.
Quick,
money, white radish.
money.
White radish. Right, let's have a look at the map.
Ask someone to take a photo of both of you in front of the fountain of Bolivia's most famous comedian.
We need to find somewhere that sells fruit. Come on, quick, go down there. Let's come down here.
So both teams heading for the market.
Right, market. Fountains, where's the fountains? There's a fountain by them. Fountain by the maypole.
Yeah.
And there's one just down here. The market. Go round the back.
I don't think the locals know quite what's in store.
No, not saying. Quick, tell your white radish. Is that them? They're onions. There's a fountain. Oh, no, there isn't. Burger.
Roddy.
Raddy.
No.
Yeah, there. Look. Aha! That must be him. It's a big one. Yeah. There it is.
Name Carl Valentini.
Found him.
Some radical raddy hunting going on from the girls.
There. That's it. Find the big one. Find the big one. That. Is that the biggest? Yeah, that's the biggest. Come on. No, Dad. Look, get this one. Right, where do we pay for it? Excuse me. Could you take the photograph, please?